Hello everybody. In our last class, we have completed the wound up to its complication and decided that we shall discuss further one by one each and every complication. In this series, first of all, we shall undertake the hemorrhage, because hemorrhage is almost the first and foremost, the most frequent complication tends to occur in case of wound. As we know, the hemorrhage, as easily you can say, escape of blood from circulatory channel is called hemorrhage. Here, how far it is concerned with the surgical text, that's other matter. But its clinical importance is the greatest extent. And for the purpose to describe this hemorrhage, at first I would like to highlight few features concerned with the hemorrhage. And the first of all is to inform that about 60 to 70% volume is accommodated in the low pressure veins. 60 to 70% of the total blood volume of the body is accommodated in the low pressure vein, means most interiorly. As you know, about 1/3 of the total blood volume remains within the portal system and some other in neighboring hood. The second important thing to know, that which is in concern with the hemorrhage, that a loss of 10% of the total blood volume is adequately compensated by the vasoconstriction. I mean to say, if the blood escapes from the circulation as maximum as 10% of its volume, it doesn't show any apparent clinical feature, because this much shedding out of the blood is compensated itself by vasoconstriction. No other help is required for the purpose to compensate this much shedding of the blood. Next, further blood loss results in diminished venous return, causing a fall in the cardiac output. It means, if the hemorrhage exceeds 10%, it means more than 10% of the total body volume, blood volume, is escaped. Here, it requires, it is represented in the form of the observation of a fall in cardiac output. Certainly, it is due to diminished blood return. When more than 10% blood has escaped out of the circulatory channel, the rest blood when comes after circulation to the level of right ventricle, certainly its volume is low and thus from right ventricle when it comes to the lung, and again the left atrium, left ventricle, and outside the body. Certainly the volume will be diminished less. Now, if the volume is diminished, it will be represented by the observation of low BP, diminished reading in the blood pressure thus appeared. But this low BP, which occurs as a result of more than 10% blood loss, it is compensated by increased heart rate and vasoconstriction. Here, to compensate this condition, vasoconstriction is already present. It is added with the increased heart rate, and under combined effect of the increased heart rate and vasoconstriction, the diminished blood pressure is maintained. Now, increase in heart rate is affected via sympathetic nervous activity, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and adrenal corticoids. I think you must remember this one. You must remember this one during study of circulatory system in the physiology, that what happens if the blood pressure diminishes, resulting in diminished blood supply to a particular organ. Certain internal mechanism becomes active. You know, diminished blood supply is more effectively and more positively apparent when the blood supply to the brain is hampered. And for that purpose, where the external and internal carotid artery bifurcates, at that side there is a structure known as carotid body, and this carotid body is regarded as chemoreceptor because it contains adrenaline. If the pressure is diminished, adrenaline releases and it causes vasoconstriction so that the pressure may be maintained. Now here, for the purpose to adrenaline become active, what happens? Here adrenaline, noradrenaline and corticoids, these three are active at the place where what happens? The corticoids sensitize the nerve ending to noradrenaline, and its effect provides favorable condition for action of the adrenaline. In this way, the corticoids, noradrenaline and adrenaline in a coordinated effect produces vasoconstriction, which raises the blood pressure. Now, as firstly I told that its clinical importance is more. Clinically, this compensation is shown as pallor, cold, clammy skin, empty vein, and increased heart rate. These are the manifestations, these are the indications which shows the diminished blood flow in the circulation, and as a result the affected area where blood is diminished, it appears pale, cold, vein becomes empty, appears collapsed. There are certain clinical conditions where if you try to find out the vein for intravenous infusion of the fluid or transfusion of the blood, and likewise you can't find that vein. Restless due to hypoxia on the midbrain, when the blood supply to the brain is diminished, hampered, and effect of hypoxia becomes evident even on the midbrain. It is represented in the form of the restlessness, change in the rate and depth of the respiration, that is partly due to effect on the brain stem and partly in response to an increase in the airways dead space and metabolic acidosis. In normal course, what happens? When the oxygen supply to any particular part or any tissue is hampered or diminished, a reflex arises from that part, that tissue, to the relevant region which is responsible for supply of the oxygen. Body don't know. Either there is lack of oxygen in the atmosphere or it is in the blood. It simply knows that respiration is the process of the body which is responsible for oxygen supply. If oxygen is found deficient and any reflex arising from that side, it stimulates the corresponding area, that is the respiratory area, the respiratory center, that is stimulated, and this rate and depth both depends upon that requirement. Till now, the vasoconstriction, which is supporting the maintenance of the blood pressure, will fail if further blood shedding exceeds 20 to 30% of the total blood volume. The difference in pressure that is gradually occurring is a hypotension becomes severe with 50% loss, affecting the perfusion of the myocardium and brain. Thus both heart and brain becomes devoid of the privilege of vasoconstriction, and ultimately death may occur. Again, one thing is important to note, that this is the normal trend of maintenance of blood pressure and support of the vasoconstriction. But this vasoconstriction may fail prior to reaching this epoch. There are certain conditions when prior to reaching this effect, the vasoconstriction may fail. As for example, alcohol, anesthesia, infection, hitting the patient with too much blankets. These are the conditions where vasoconstriction may fail prior to reaching the usual point where it is usually failed. Now we shall consider the actual fact for which we have started this chapter and come to the classification of the hemorrhage. If the hemorrhage is tried to be classified, it is based upon the different point of view, as depending upon the source of the hemorrhage, it may be classified as arterial, venous and capillary. Simply meant that if the blood is coming from the artery, which means damage is at the arterial level, it is arterial hemorrhage. If it comes from the vein, it is venous hemorrhage, and if it comes from the capillary, it is the capillary hemorrhage. Now, how you can understand that from which source the blood is coming? We know that the arterial blood is bright red in color, and shedding of blood assumes the pulsatile pattern. Suppose a victim of accident is injured upon his artery, but in the wound the site is not clearly apparent. At that time, you may feel that with each stroke of the heart, you will find a certain raised pressure or certain enhanced flow. And if the blood is bright red, it shows arterial. In cases of the superficial injury, mostly, the vein becomes damaged and a respectively darker blood comes and it flows in the way just like the water is flowing on the surface, and the capillary, it assumes the oozing pattern, bright red blood when coming out of its source as if it is oozing, just like the perspiration. So this is denoted as the capillary hemorrhage. Now, depending upon the occurrence, we can classify it as primary, reactionary and secondary. Primary means just at once, just with the injury, blood is coming out. it is primary hemorrhage. And if this primary hemorrhage is seized by some process and remains as it is for a sufficient period, but if the bleeding reoccurs within 24 hours, mostly within 4 to 6 hours, it is called the reactionary hemorrhage. Most frequently, the causes of such type of hemorrhage is the slipping of the ligature. Suppose you have ligated the damaged end of the vessel and the ligature has been slipped, or if the bleeding is ceased as a result of formation of clot at the site of the hemorrhage. That clot has dislodged and the site becomes open. This is regarded as the reactionary. For this purpose, there are certain precipitating circumstances like rise in blood pressure, restlessness, coughing and vomiting. All these causes rise in pressure at the site of the injury, and it helps or enhances the blood to come out again, and in this way the reactionary hemorrhage may also occur. And now the secondary, if the bleeding reoccurs after 7 to 14 days of the injury, it is called the secondary hemorrhage, and certainly it is due to infection, where when the part becomes infected, the clot or newly formed tissue becomes sloughed out, and the wall of an artery shows and point through which the blood may come out. For this secondary hemorrhage, the predisposing factors may be pressure of the drainage tube. Suppose an operation has been done and operation is slightly larger at that time, a drainage tube is provided, and if this drainage tube may hurt the internal structure following unconsciousness about that part, or negligence and whatsoever during sleep, or a fragment of bone, if separated but not cleared at the time of the dressing or wound toilet, ligature in an infected area, if the ligature has been given in the infected area and that area further undergoes necrosis. In this way, the predisposing factors may hamper or may produce the secondary hemorrhage. Now, the next one is the depending upon the site of occurrence, that is basically the external and internal. It is also obvious when the site of hemorrhage is at places from where it can be very easily drained out outside. This is external. But if the injury is in the interior of the body, of the organ, and hemorrhage has taken place, such type of hemorrhage is called the internal hemorrhage. There is one more classification has been done on the basis of nature of bleeding, that is the acute hemorrhage or chronic hemorrhage. Thank you. Further, we shall consider the next step in the next day, next class. Thank you again.